The United Nations says its unprecedented, extremely ambitious polio vaccination campaign has reached 87,000 children in Gaza on just day one. It is a good start, but still just a fraction of the population which needs the vaccine. Joining me now is Arowy. She's the president and co-founder of Inara, the International Network for Aid, Relief and Assistance, and she just returned from her third trip to Gaza since the war began. Arowy, thanks so much for being with us. In terms of this vaccination campaign, the goal is to vaccinate 640,000 Palestinian children in Gaza. From what you saw on the ground on this most recent trip, tell us what these aid workers are up against.
They're up against a plethora of challenges the vast majority of us can't even begin to imagine, from getting the vaccines into Gaza itself to ensuring cold chain to then all of the trainings that had to happen for all of those people that are actually administering the vaccine, and then trying to get the population to these vaccination points. You have to remember, it's not like you can hail a bus in Gaza or even drive your car to get to where you're going. The main mode of transportation right now is either your own 2 feet or a donkey cart, not to mention the sheer congestion that exists in some of these places means that a road that would normally take you 15 minutes takes you around 3 hours. But there's also the point to be made, Alex, and that is why and how did polio reemerge in Gaza? And that is quite simply because the Israeli bombardment campaign utterly decimated all of Gaza's infrastructure. You have sewage running in the streets, you have piles of garbage, and you have a severe lack of hygiene because we aid organizations, due to Israel's restrictions, have not been able to get in sufficient levels of hygiene kits to distribute to the population. In fact, we're at a stage where we're barely even able to get in a bar of soap.
And polio, Arowy, as you know, is just one of the many, many health risks that children are facing in Gaza. We have some of your video of children suffering from impetigo. How dire are the conditions?
It's absolutely horrific. Look, you talk to people and you ask them how they're trying to keep themselves and their children clean, and a lot of them are having to mix sand with salt and lemon because there's no soap. It's one of the first things people ask you as an aid worker. Do you have a hygiene kit? Do you have soap? And it's gutting because it's so ridiculous to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't. And what this has done is not just resulted in this huge spread of cases of that skin disease and impetigo you were talking about, which actually, Alex, has the potential to be deadly because in the most severe instances, children need to be hospitalized. And if they're not, they can risk kidney failure, which means they can risk death. You also have the spreading of illnesses like meningitis, which can also prove to be fatal, and then hepatitis A. And just in Nasser Hospital alone, the head of the pediatrics department was telling me that 2 children per week are dying because of hepatitis A. And you really get the sense being there that even if the bombs were to stop dropping tomorrow, if Israel does not allow more aid into Gaza, and if Israel does not facilitate and secure the routes that it designates that aid organizations must use to pick up the aid, Gazans are going to continue to die at a horrific rate because of the widespread illnesses that we're seeing, because of these types of diseases that we're seeing.
Oh, there's going to be so much, aid agencies say, disease beyond this war whenever it ends. Arowy, more broadly, in terms of the impact on the youth of that population, we've just gotten video in of a young girl saying goodbye to her father who was killed in an airstrike. I want to warn our viewers that they may find this disturbing. And I should note that this is in the Deir al-Balah area, where the same area where the vaccination efforts are currently underway. What does that tell you? And what kind of psychological toll is this taking on the people of Gaza, particularly the youngest among them?
They're crushed, Alex. They are completely and totally psychologically crushed and obliterated. This isn't life. It's pure survival under inhumane conditions. And you see trauma manifesting itself in many different ways, whether it's in the adults. So there's one father, his wife was killed as she was cradling her daughter. The daughter and son survived, but the father was so traumatized by everything that he has forgotten his name and he has forgotten that he has children. I have met numerous children who have simply lost the ability to speak. I have met children who have lost certain levels of motor functionality, and doctors can't find anything physically wrong with them. And so they say it's the psychological impact of all of this. You see, signs of aggression in children. You see bedwetting. You see all the different ways that trauma can manifest itself. And the reality is that while the triggers are ongoing, while the trauma is ongoing, the kind of work that needs to be done to help these children begin to process everything that they have been through quite simply cannot materialize because there's too much instability that is just continuously happening all around them. But that's the next big fear that people will tell you about, Alex. Mm-hmm. It's when these bombs stop falling and they have to face the psychological devastation that has been wreaked upon them as well.